Good evening. Welcome once again, everyone, to our Wednesday evening from the Eastern Mediterranean. Sister Maureen, welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, also very clear. So a very warm welcome to you, and we'd like to welcome you with some flowers from here, from Turkey. And they're coming on the screen right now.
I'm ready. Oh, beautiful.
There is a Sister Ishil presenting these to you. So
thank you. Beautiful flowers. Thank you.
So I think most will know Maureen, but just in case there are those who don't, here is a little bit about her. She's the program director for BK UK and also Baba's representative at the United Nations in Vienna. And I've known her for, let's say, most of her 40 plus years in Gyan. She was one of the first students in London, and of course, a huge amount of sustenance from Dadi Janki. So we've asked Maureen to speak on this subject of maturity in Brahmin life. How do you measure maturity? How do you know you're actually moving forward and maturing? So what would be the stages, perhaps what would be the signs of that? And also, if you can, also share a bit about your trip to Ukraine, as it was recent, and we'd love to hear directly from you. Plus a reminder that there is simultaneous translation in several languages. So just to speak fairly slow, please. Okay, thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you so much. We just have a moment of silence together, maybe. Om Shanti. So thank you for the invitation and the introduction. And I remember my visit to Turkey very well. It's a few years ago now, 5-6 years ago, something like that. But this theme, maturity in Brahmin life, is very, very important. And I think as we can see, I think all the signs of the drama moving to a close, how long it's going to be, what's going to happen, well, we don't know the detail. And so more and more maturity is needed. And when I think about maturity, first of all, I think of Mama, because she was always, that term associated with her Gambhir, which means, mature, stable, steady, calm, it's more kind of all the qualities of maturity. And Mama, as you know, was not phased out by anything, was not shocked by anything, distracted by anything. Mama had a very, very strong focus, and Mama took everything in her stride, and she related everything to Baba. And I remember once Dadi Janki saying, if there's a challenge that comes to you, first of all, take power from Baba. I thought that was very beautiful, because sometimes there's a challenge and the first thing we do is to look at the situation and think about it and try and think about a solution. But before doing anything like that, first of all, take power from Baba. And I think if there's maturity in life, then it's a life in which we have our priorities straight. We know what really is meaningful and what is less meaningful, or what is not so important, perhaps even trivial. Because I think Baba will always say, make the art of living is to make big things into small things. And sometimes, as Brahmins, as human beings, we have the art of making little things into big things. So that's the opposite of being mature. And so it's this art of understanding perspective, of being stable and steady. And today's Murli was very fascinating about the drama. And I think in this Murli was many, many secrets or keys to maturity. And Baba's saying, well, love the drama. Good. Can't say anything's bad. The day is good. The night is good. People don't understand what devotion is, what knowledge is, but just love this drama because the creator loves the drama. And of course, Baba's not saying to us, well, I love it that people are suffering and at war. And no, but what I felt the training Baba was giving us this morning was that understand what's happening and don't lose your contentment through the scenes that you see in the drama around you. And so loving the drama means that you love your part within the drama, and you always know what it is that your part is demanding of you. And Baba said this too, didn't he? That just play your part according to the drama. And when we had a discussion in the class this morning, somebody said, well, our part is like, we play our part, but the big thing is our personality. And then I remembered, I may have repeated before here, but Daddy Gulzar was in London, and Daddy Janki and Daddy Gulzar were at the dining table. And, sometimes they would interact like young girls, even in their 80s and 90s. And Daddy Janki's saying there are 2 people to be admitted into the waiting room, just seeing the sign. Okay. And then Daddy she was saying to Daddy Gulzar, who's going to reveal Baba? Who is it? It's you and it's me. And then she said, it's our part, it's our then she said, it's our personality. And then I asked Daddy, what is personality? And she said, personality is your part. And so I understand that to be your specialities, how your qualities, how you live, how you play your part. And I could see this thing of, then I was thinking about it, and there's a difference between the part and the role. I know in some languages it's the same word, but just think of the concept. The role is, in a sense, the external. What you do, you can say program director, you can say, I don't know, center coordinator, whatever. For example, we think of Daddy Ji and we can think, well, she was a great administrator. And, she, to the extent that they say that she would know, because she knew the price of all the commodities that would come into Madhuban, she could tell you the price of an individual piece of toli, the price meaning cost, of course. So great administrator. But when we think of Daddy Ji, what do we think of? We think about her qualities, her virtues. We think about how she gave respect to everyone, how she was loving, how she was so jovial. We think about the personality. And so the role she played, many in terms of administration. But the part, really her qualities, the specialities that she brought to everything. And this is where I need to focus, because there will always be a role. There's a role in service. If I belong to Baba, Baba will always give me those opportunities in the drama And just now, Sudesh Didi was mentioning, we were just having a meeting, and she was mentioning about how being an instrument, we have the consciousness of being an instrument, but then whatever comes in front of us, we then, with faith, knowing that Baba is Karan Karavan Har, we then say yes. So we take the responsibility. We do our responsibility of being an instrument, and Baba does the rest in terms of the results and service. Excuse me. And so, yes, maturity is to be aware that I have to play my part. Let me just play my part, but let me not base my part on what others expect of me or the influence of others in any way. Yes, when we, the other day in the Murli, Baba spoke very much about being honest with Baba, talking to Baba, giving your full chart and account to Baba, and now Baba's not here, so being honest with Baba's instruments and so on. And so with that honesty, again, all the things Baba teaches us is to lessen the burden on us, so that honesty and openness in playing our part, so that we can really be carefree. Nothing hidden. There's tension when you hide something, isn't there? Something's wrong and you want to hide it. There's a little bit of tension, even if it's a little thing. And so, yes, being mature is to understand my part from the inside and to play that, to understand what it is that I need to do, what it is that Baba wants me to do. And that doesn't necessarily mean what I think has to happen is right and has to happen. More, it means that I know which qualities and virtues to bring to every situation that will uplift the situation, that will uplift those involved in the situation. So it really is about playing your part in the deepest sense. And it's so easy to get affected and to get influenced, isn't it? We need to be very strong inside because, well, there are lots of sanskars in the Brahmin family. I wonder if you noticed. Different sanskars, different opinions, different ways of doing things. So there's going to be a huge variety. And those sanskars are not always going to match mine. Of course they should, shouldn't they? I'm perfect there. And that's the thing, when we start to think others should do that, then I'm really taking on a bit of ego there that thinks I'm right and I know best. So there are different sanskars, different ways of doing things, different parts that are being played. But then within all of that, I need to know what I need to do. I need to be yog-yukt in terms of understanding from within what is needed of me at this moment. And then, yes, of course, in playing our roles, doing what we have to do, we consult, we listen, we work with others. I just came from a core group meeting now, and so we discuss, we have different ideas. And I've seen in the meeting, and I know I do this for myself, I just stay very open. I may come with one idea, but just keep open. And there's really that vibe in the meeting, which is very lovely. And so then something else happens and it's fine and it works out and everybody feels comfortable. So it's also part of maturity, is certainly not being too stubborn, right? We can have determination, but not stubbornness. And stubborn is when really I get, determination is when, yes, I know something needs to happen and I really keep that vision powerfully. And then if it doesn't happen today, it'll happen later. But something tells me it's a good thing and it will happen. And of course, when it's determination for creating our own stage, then that's not to leave for later. Yes, Baba, now is the time. But stubbornness is when, okay, you have a determined thought for something, and then if somebody opposes it, you get irritated. Well, that's stubbornness. So your ego has come in to say, but it has to be. Well, just wait, just be patient. Daddy Janki talked a lot about patience. And in my experience, and patience is part of maturity, often or generally, if I'm patient, things happen more quickly. It's like the person who said to God, God, please give me happiness. No, sorry, God, give me patience, but hurry up. Patience, and things will come to you. Opportunities will come to you. So patience is a virtue, as they say, as the saying is in English. So these are all aspects of maturity. And I think somebody who's mature in their BK life, they feel very much at ease with themselves. They feel comfortable with themselves. So there isn't that inner conflict. And if there's still an inner conflict, then there's some immaturity somewhere of of my limited self or limited perception of myself, wanting something, needing something, and it's not fulfilled. So then there is conflict. And also, when I'm not mature, I want to control things. And we all fall into this trap at times. And when we really don't feel the need to control, then that's a state of maturity. And there is also, we've learned the art of then allowing Baba to be responsible. So I do my best and then Baba does the rest, as they say. And I also learned one thing, that if I keep thinking about a person, it means I want to control them. If I keep thinking about a situation, I want to control it. In the sense that if I keep thinking about a person, what am I thinking? Why are they like this? I wish they weren't like this. I want them to be different. That's control. I can't control that. I can only control my own inner thoughts and feelings. And so maturity really is about absolutely taking responsibility for the self and not thinking that everything that happens is my responsibility. And, when I look at my own experience in Brahmin life, I used to feel responsible for everything and responsible for everybody's problems and also want to fight everybody's battles. And that wasn't a state of maturity. Because also, as an instrument, in order to really enable others to come close to Baba, you need to enable them to understand the importance of how, for themselves, to take responsibility for themselves. Not that I take responsibility to solve their problems. And so a mature BK, the more we mature, and I've seen this in my own life, the more and more I've matured, and I think, of course, a long way to go, as with all of us, the less and less needy I've become, less and less I've wanted attention, less and less I'm watching others, less and less I'm comparing with others, because I'm stable in my own self-respect. And I don't know if you're reading the points on humility, they're very lovely. Baba said today that as much as you have humility, so you have self-respect. And so self-respect is a real sign of maturity. Not arrogance, but real self-respect. I'm easy, I'm flexible, and I remain with my inner contentment and inner happiness no matter what's happening. And I really only take responsibility for myself. I don't take responsibility for everybody else's thoughts and feelings. Yes, I can take responsibility in my role for the right conditions, the right things to happen, perhaps the right organizational structure, whatever it is that will make people's life easier. But I cannot take responsibility for another person's thoughts or feelings. That is really so important. And I have fallen into that trap so many times. And then it's not helped me and it's not helped them. I've just ended up feeling totally stressed. So we need that certain amount of detachment, and especially when there are people that we're working with closely. If suddenly, for one reason or another, they get upset, they may or may not be upset with me, but they just get upset. And we're a little bit, because we work with them closely, there is that little bit of dependency. And so then, oh no, I have to do something to take away their unhappiness. And I get unhappy. And of course, there's a lovely story Daddy told from the very early days when Didi had come to Baba, Big Didi Mumahini had come to Baba and said, Baba, this and this is happening. And Baba said, well, that person may be in distress. Why is it showing on your face? And I also remember another incident when it was at a teachers' meeting, many, in the 80s, I think. And one particular sister was very unhappy and she decided that she was going to leave. And I got very distressed about it. And I ran to Daddy and I said, Daddy, so-and-so is going to leave and da-da. And of course, Daddy wanted to teach me a lesson. And she said, let her go. It's fine. And I don't know, I must have been very cheeky. I said, Daddy, don't you have any mercy? And then Daddy looked at me and said, well, you've got enough mercy for the two of us, and your mercy doesn't give happiness. It was a very good lesson for me that I haven't forgotten. And yes, of course, Daddy did meet the person afterwards and made them feel okay, and they didn't leave. But my first thing was, oh, no. So she said, wrong type of mercy. That's not going to help. Now you have two people distressed instead of one person. And another story too, which you may have heard, that Daddy being somewhere and it was, she was talking and she was her usual animated self. And there was one woman in the gathering in the corner of the room who was very unhappy. And as Daddy was going on, in the end, she just sort of burst out and said, what right have you to be so happy when I'm so miserable? And Daddy paused and Daddy said to her, well, if I also become unhappy, who would there be to bring you happiness? And that just turned around that woman's thinking. It was amazing. So Daddy didn't engage. This was her lesson, not to engage with the negativity, because then it's like I need to help and I need to be seen to be helping and I, need to be needed and all that syndrome. And so where's Baba in all of that? Baba's gone away and it just becomes a very human connection. And then the impact of that or what I can do is limited. And so with maturity, we need to really come out of those limitations and to always see the bigger picture. And can I see the bigger picture? Excuse me. And this is where this whole stability on the drama is just so, so important. I understand I'm Trikaldarshi. If I'm stable on the drama, I'm Trikaldarshi. What has led me to this? Or what is behind this situation? Where am I now? and what would be the consequences of any actions that I take. So I don't just see immediately, let me do this and I react, but I actually understand something more deeply about what is going on. And very often this involves not just understanding what is happening, but understanding the motivation of those actions that somebody has performed. What is behind this? And when you begin to understand the motivation, and there was a Murli where Baba talked about this, feelings and intentions, bhav and bhavna. You know, these words, bhavna, deep feelings of faith, bhav are intentions. And Baba said, bhavna changes bhav. So there's an impact of my feelings when I come into a lot of feelings and a fluctuation of feelings. It actually can then change my pure intentions. My intentions get polluted. So my feelings, my intentions, but when I have pure intentions, I can always more likely to be able to recognize that in others. And then the decisions I take or how I respond will be based on that deeper perspective, not just superficially on, the surface. So maturity, I feel, is all about going beneath the surface and understanding the deeper aspects. And that's why that thing of let me just immediately take power from Baba enables me to go into the deeper aspects. I think another aspect of maturity is not taking things personally. And too often we take things personally. Something happens, somebody says something, somebody does something, and I personally get hurt. And Baba has described the whole scenario, of course, of what happens then, that if I'm hurt, I begin to have, negative feelings about the person, maybe feelings, or thoughts of dislike, or criticism. I then feel bad. I then feel bad within myself. I feel a victim at that moment. And so I'm taking it all very personally. Instead of understanding that, look, that person has their part to play. There's something happened in their lives that has made them like that. They're doing what they need to do. I don't need to play my part according to their script. So I don't need to take this personally. There could be a million reasons. It's not me. And so instead of, and Baba came up today, instead of reacting, let me have mercy and compassion for others. If somebody is insulting me, let me have compassion for them. Because people only do those things, or maybe, because there's something unfulfilled in them. A fulfilled person who is, content inside would not have any interest in giving sorrow to anyone. In fact, it can't really happen. And so maturity is understanding that. So I don't then take everything deeply into myself. And I have really had to learn that. I mean, I live with many souls, work with many souls, many sanskaras. And yes, sometimes people react. And also when you're an instrument, and many of you will know this, you're also a convenient place on which to throw rubbish, You get a few rotten tomatoes and so on from time to time. And it's because people know that they're safe with you. You're not going to reject them. You're not going to tell them to leave the class or, you're just going to accept them. And so sometimes when there are some scars that are bitter and the person can't cope with them, you become a target. It's a strange phenomenon in a way, but you become a target. And I know myself, at first I was taken aback and I did feel victimized by it. Not that it happens that much, but when it would happen, those particular souls. And then, I began to realize that I don't have to take it personally. I can be stronger inside, and I actually need to support that person and see what it is that's going on for them. And that's a much more mature response and mature point of view, because there are lots of hurt feelings in the Brahmin family for one reason or another. And it is a fact that we've been around the cycle together. And if we think about where our karmas are, our karmic accounts, yes, they'll be with our families and, people we work with and so on. But our deeper karmic accounts are often within the BK family. And so, you can't understand why there's this, friction or bad feeling. It's an old account. And so let me have a big heart. Let me be merciful. Let me be compassionate. And let me give love so that the negativity is taken out of the heart of the other. And I've watched Daddy do that very often. And I always remember the story when at the Spirit of Humanity Forum, when the Mayor of Reykjavik was talking to us, and he described this situation in the council chamber where somebody was berating him and insulting him. And at first he felt angry, and then he calmed himself down. And he said, my principle is that if there's negativity, let me counteract it with even more goodness. Now, this is someone who's not in Gyan, but somebody who has very good spiritual principles in their life. And so then he got up and he very calmly said to the person, addressed him, well, I heard what you said about me. I heard your opinion of me, but I have a different opinion of myself. And you can do better than that. So the person was quiet. No debate, no argument. So maturity, calming ourselves down inside, not giving ourselves, not reacting, not taking in the sorrow or taking sorrow, but actually being a bestower at that moment. And there was lovely Murli. In fact, it was the morning I was in Ukraine. Of course, that was on the 12th of April. So we arrived in Romania on the 11th, and then we crossed the border into Ukraine on the 12th morning. And that was about 7 in the morning we left. And well, because we had to wait on the way back 5 hours at the border to cross, we actually came back at 20 to 3 in the morning. So it was a very long day. But it was significant that morning in the Murli. Baba said, Baba is, or God is, the remover of sorrow and the giver of happiness, and you children have to be the same. And I repeated that line to a few of the religious leaders I was with and said, this is what we heard in our teachings today. And they liked it. They liked it very much. It was just so perfect for that moment of going into Ukraine. And so maturity, what can I give? What can I do? How can I make this better? Generosity of spirit is part of maturity. So I don't become limited and say, why are they talking to me like that? And I'm going to talk back at them, or I'm going to make life difficult for them. No, not at all. No matter what, let me keep to my principles and my higher values that Baba has taught me. And today Baba's saying, Baba's given you so many gifts you have to share. Now, if I become immature and I get hurt and I say, what's happened? And I cry, then How can I share the gifts that Baba's given? What's more important? Even if somebody's rejecting me, and that can happen, but how can I give something in return? That's the bigger thing, mature thing, the greater thing to do. And I really feel that Baba's calling us to greatness. So yes, these are some thoughts about maturity, but absolutely being stable on the drama and loving the drama is the key. And I really loved what Baba said today. And I remember Daddy saying once that if you really understand the drama deeply, you will never be unhappy. You won't want to play anyone else's part. You won't compare your part with anyone else. You will be steady, stable, and mature within yourself. And then Baba can use you as an instrument in any situation. Then Baba knows that, yes, you're not going to go back into that limited consciousness. You're going to stay in the unlimited. And something that I've seen with Daddy, on the one hand, Daddy very firm, when she would be giving her classes, very strong, and many of you would have heard that. But then when you would meet her personally, and I have observed her in personal meetings, very flexible, very open-hearted, and she wouldn't be rigid about anything. What's going to help you stay with Baba? Okay, you want to do this, go and do it. Don't worry about it. In the class, it'll be, don't do this. Personally, she said, no, just be happy, just be calm, just stay with Baba. So also, I also feel that in being mature, it's important to understand another person's need and not be rigid about anything, because if we show rigidity, it becomes a barrier for somebody to come closer to Baba. So it's okay, whatever it is, but just to have that flexibility and to be open. And that really is, to be loving, to be very loving. So yeah, lots of thoughts to share. And I know you wanted to hear a little bit about the Ukraine experience and then some time for questions. But yes, it was quite amazing. And again, it was organized by the Elijah Interfaith Institute, which we've been involved with for many years, since 2005. And I've been going to the board meetings of the religious leaders every 2 years. Most of them I've been to, not every single one. And, we've grown together as a group of friends. Sister Genty is actually on the board as the main leader, but usually I'm representing the BKs. So we've grown together as friends, and but of course in the delegation there were people that I didn't know as well, of course. So new friends, but the friendship between us was very lovely, and we all looked after each other very much. I think some of you may have actually watched the event, which was really powerful. But before we left, we had a Skype call together, and we were very clear that we didn't want to take sides. We weren't going there in any political sense or to make peace or say, this one's the aggressor or this one's the victim or anything, but we were just going there to be with the people and to bring care and comfort. And that really is what happened, which was very lovely. And of course, when you cross over the border, and we went to a city called Chernivtsi, there hasn't been fighting there. A few rockets, but they've been deflected. But now you don't know, Russia, it's a bombardment everywhere. But they're quite away in the west, and all of the, fighting is very much in the east. And so people were concerned. I said, look, I even sent somebody a map to say, look, this is where we're going. It's okay. But I knew, because Baba was sending me, because seniors were giving their blessings. I mean, I knew 100% it was going to be safe and okay, and I would come back. And here I am. But of course, many people are suffering a lot. But you could feel the tension. Even though there wasn't actual fighting in that area, everybody's at war, everybody's feeling it. And someone even said to me, can you see how people are walking very quickly up and down the street? It's a sign of a war zone. And it's true, because nobody was hanging around chatting or anywhere. A to B, because you don't know what's going to happen. Get from A to B, be purposeful, be focused. And again, it's like all the priorities are shifted. And Ukrainian people are very hospitable, and they're very bewildered how they suddenly found themselves in this situation. And one of the places we went to was, because we have visits during the day, and it was a school where some refugees were being housed, and we couldn't converse a lot. We had an interpreter, but they were like, you could see their eyes were bewildered, suddenly. And when people have had to be displaced within the country or come out as refugees, they've taken nothing with them, and so you can't even imagine, leaving everything behind and just taking yourself and whatever's on your back and maybe in one little bag, and just leaving a place which is so unsafe. And, we still don't have much information at all about our brothers and sisters in Mariupol, because no communication, and the place is just decimated. So we don't know. We know about one couple that's gone to Russia, but we don't know about others. But otherwise, the news we hear is that our BKs are okay. But of course, all over the country, people are really, really in a bad situation. So, seeing the work people are doing, we went to an orphanage, and the woman who runs it had spent time with Mother Teresa in Calcutta, and she'd opened this place a few years ago for mothers and children fleeing domestic violence. And it was built for 80, but now they have 200, and they have many children orphaned by the war, and mothers and children too, and little babies orphaned by the war, But they were very, what can I say, a very caring place. The children were very much loved. But then when you speak to the volunteers or the people working there, they're scared. They're very scared. They don't know what's going to happen next. But they're doing their best to provide that atmosphere for the children. So it was very inspirational. And then we were hosted by the Chabad community, which is a Jewish religious community, which is all over the world, actually, and they do a huge amount of humanitarian work for all communities. And so we were with them, and the mayor of Chernivtsi was with us. And then we went to the theatre. We had a BBC film crew following us. So there was actually a lot of media interest. And the people who financed this, an organization called the Peace Department from the US, a new NGO, fairly new NGO. So we went to the theatre, and, those who watched the event, it was just, the whole thing was so moving. And I didn't ask, I had no idea, but they asked me to be at the front, and because we had to do a procession down the aisle to the stage. And so myself and Nikitas, who is actually now the head of the Greek Orthodox Church here in the UK, and we're very good friends. We've known each other over the years. And so they wanted the two of us to walk down the aisle together. And then, of course, going up the stairs, I went in front, otherwise I'd be lost behind him. He was tall and all in black, and I'm smaller and in white. So it must have been quite a seat. So I went, and then we were greeted by the dancers. And the opening was very, beginning and closing with these Ukrainian choir. And you could feel that it was their chance to express joy, and it was just so joyful. So each of the leaders gave a message. There was, by Pope Francis, there was a message especially from Pope Francis. That was very powerful. And, like Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, he just saying that our souls are troubled, he used that term. And, we tried to make our messages, as universal as possible. And, at the end of, I'd asked for minutes of silence, didn't happen, but I asked the rabbi who's organizing, well, can I ask for a moment of silence at the end of my talk? He said at the second round, we each gave 2 messages. So the first set of messages was on comfort and caring, and the second set on hope, freedom and hope. So beautiful themes. And so he said, yes, whatever you want to do. And so I shared the message, and then I said, let us now have a moment of silence together to invoke God's presence, experience God's depth of God's peace, and to spread that to the world. And there was like a noise. I thought, somebody come in the theatre. And then I realized it was the seats going up. Everybody spontaneously stood up. It was just so moving. And it was so powerful. And I honestly thought I was going to fall over. It was like Baba was just, so nothing to do with me at all. Baba, Baba, Baba. I just stood there. But it was a very profound moment. And even other leaders commented on it. So really, Baba does his work in such a beautiful way. And, I think, our friendship between us, also had an impact on the people. It had a vibe and an atmosphere that we brought, because we all, even in that one day, just came very close to each other if we were not close already. And I always find this when I'm in interreligious work, the people who are very sincere in practicing their faith and sincere in helping others, you just have very beautiful, enriching friendships, and lasting friendships, actually. So I felt very fortunate in that. And, it was just a very moving experience to really witness it, but to feel that atmosphere that they were living in, and to know that really we're so fortunate. Now, I don't know what countries you're all from, and you have all experienced different levels of conflict in your areas, and so many of you will know exactly the kind of atmosphere I'm talking about. So really, it's yes, it was very, very powerful. Perhaps I'll just say Galaxy J6. I hope you're getting the message that you need to log in with your name, then you'll be admitted. So I don't know, I hope the message is getting through. You've been trying to get in. So yes, it was just a very moving experience. Yeah. And coming back on the coach, the rabbi, was a mic, he said, I'm so proud of all of you. He said, we're proud of you. It was a very sweet moment. Okay, maybe some time for questions or comments, because a little bit of time left yet.
Yes, thank you, Sister Maureen, and we're very proud of you for lifting Baba and all of us in such a beautiful way. Yes, if you have questions, do put them in the chat box. I'd like to start off with one. You talked quite a bit about relationships with others in terms of maturity. Can you say something about maturity in self-relationship? So, for example, what would be a mature attitude or a mature relationship with your own shortcomings, with your dark side, as it were?
Very good question. Yes, very important aspect. I've learned more and more to be kind to myself and to love myself, but particularly to be kind to myself, because if I would make a mistake, even a little one, I feel very bad. Many of us get that whip out, and now I say, it's okay, it's fine. And I say to myself, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes every day. It's all right. But my important question to myself always is, what can I learn from this? Learning, 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 humility, humility, humility. And that has helped me to be kinder to myself and to actually be more interested in my own self-progress. And I also, I have faith that Baba knows my heart, and Baba knows that I'm doing my best, whatever I can do. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing whatever I can do in my personal efforts and service. And so no matter what, I want to keep my stage steady. I want to keep my inner contentment. And I remember Sudesh Didi once being asked the question, what do you love the most? And she said, my stage. But I think really, most of all, being kind to myself has helped me to have, a more mature relationship with myself and to forgive myself, because if your mind is away from that guilt and all of that, you can actually move forward. You can move forward nicely. But any negativity towards the self holds you back. And I see many souls, their thoughts are so negative towards themselves that they can't have yoga, they can't enjoy their Brahmin life. It's very difficult. So there's also a renunciation of that, because those negative thoughts, worrisome thoughts, can be themselves become a comfort zone, because I don't know anything else. So I have to step, maturity also is always stepping out of your comfort zone. Constantly.
That's great, thank you. There's a couple more questions that have come in here. Somebody asks, Sister Maureen, do you remember Baba ever saying that in the end there will be conflict in the Brahmin family?
Saying that, I don't remember at the end, but Baba's been talking about that for years. I mean, I remember, because in the Sakha Murlis, all the practical things Baba talks about and how to deal with things. And I remember some years on into my BK life, I had this sudden realization, which was a bit slow. Oh, Baba's not talking about the world out there. Baba's talking about the world in here and how we deal with things. And so Baba's very aware that there's conflict within the family. And so that's not a new thing, and that's not for the end, that's been ongoing. And our maturity is all the things we've been talking about, to deal with that and not take it inside, and to be an instrument to find the solutions rather than continue to contribute to the problem. So yeah, it's ongoing. But excuse me, one lovely thing is, I remember that Daddy Gosar telling us once that when Baba left, all the main daddies got together and they pledged absolute unity to one another. because they knew that if they, you know, some of them went off in different directions in their thinking, that the yajna couldn't continue. And so there can be differences of opinions and that, but not actual conflict, negative feelings for each other, because that destroys the unity and destroys the foundation of Baba's yajna. So very important. Yeah.
Beautiful. Another question here. Somebody asks, what has helped Sister Maureen most in becoming mature?
I think as much as possible, practicing humility and honesty, these two qualities. And I know it's something to practice. You know, one thing is to say, oh, I want to conquer my ego, you know, well, great, we all do. But I have to practice the virtue that counteracts that in everything. And I remember when I came to London, I practiced it a lot because I knew that I was a second person in that role in the office. I knew people, but I wasn't in that role of, you know, administrating, coordinating. So I used to remind myself, I must be humble, I must respect everyone, I mustn't give any orders, I mustn't be bossy. I used to tell myself this 100 times a day at least, you know, just to make sure that I didn't get into that sanskara. And so, and I always say that service is about friendship. It's not about hierarchy or, you know, position. It's really about friendship, whether within the family or externally too. It's really about friendship.
Okay, there's no more questions in the chat, so maybe I'll just ask one last one. Can you suggest a fast track for us to reach maturity as time is short? What should we be paying attention to especially?
I'm tempted to say a fast track is to put yourself in the middle of service, in the middle of the family. Then your rough edges will get smoothed off very quickly. I think it's very individual because we all have individual samskaras, you know. But I think the biggest fast track I guess, is to always say yes to Baba. And so whatever Baba's asking of me, I say yes. And I don't say, oh, but I can't do that. I've never done that before. No. And, you know, just summon that power to face. And when you say yes to Baba, Baba really gives you the power to do whatever's needed. So, yes, Baba is a good fast track.
Lovely. Thank you so much. There's a number of comments appreciating all the depth that you've shared with us tonight, and also the lovely experience of Ukraine. I think we're really fortunate that we've had you tonight so soon after the Ukraine trip. So many, many thanks. Would you like to see who's been online?
Love to, yes.
Okay, so let's all go to the review and open camera.